ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, in what appears to be a big W for the FBI, having foiled an apparent terrorist plot to be carried out by the Turtle Island Defense League, here is some of the evidence and aerial footage that they obtained prior to arresting 4 individuals for what would have been planned to be a New Year's Eve terror attack. Behold.
And this is, the video is, do you want to describe the video?
Yeah, I'll describe the video. So, as I mentioned in my talking points, on December 12th, a group of individuals, again, members of this anti-government group, traveled out to the desert to test their explosive devices. They had precursor chemicals there, and they were going to create these bombs in the desert. What they are starting to do is put their chemicals and wares and the components out on the table there. This footage that you're watching is from our surveillance plane. And then what happened after this is the Los Angeles FBI SWAT team, along with the FBI's hostage rescue team, moved in and arrested all 4 subjects without incident.
This is pretty wild in terms of how they have surveillance footage from a plane of 4 individuals gathering in the desert in order to test their precursors, which are the ingredients used to make explosives. It goes on, and we're going to watch this for a bit before we get into it.
So now we'll take some questions. Yeah, we're not naming the victim companies, but I'll generally describe them as logistic centers. You can think of like Amazon type logistic centers, but we're not naming the specific companies at this time.
Can you elaborate on the locations?
There were at least 5
Can you elaborate on locations, presumably for the attacks themselves?
locations that they intended to target within Orange County and Los Angeles County. Again, we're not giving out the specific sites, but they were willing and wanting to do more if they could recruit more members to their radical efforts there.
Turtle Island Liberation Front? Yeah, it was the TAILF. It was a shame they didn't go with the Manatee Island Liberation Front. MILF. Come on, you saw what I did there. Turtle Island Liberation Front. We're going to play this out, read an article, and then we're going to discuss.
You mentioned the arrest in New Orleans. Do you think that there are other people involved, or do you think there's some other locations being listed?
There are definitely more members to this group. As far as who was specifically involved in this New Year's Eve terror plot, we believe we've arrested all the members who were specifically involved in that particular plot. We did execute search warrants to people who are also part of this group. As we review that evidence, if we determine that there are any other individuals who knew about this or provided any assistance, we will obviously be charging them as well.
Now, let's pause it here. I'm reading the chat as we go along, and it's going to make me log in. That is the breaking news. Now, if you didn't hear the details of this story, they have announced the arrest of an alleged terror plot in California that was foiled by a far-left group. Bondi announced earlier today, and that was the press conference where they elaborated on some of the evidence. I'm looking at the chat as we're watching this and reading people saying, yeah, when I'm going to go test explosives, I'm going to go do it out in the open in the desert. Now, like we often say on this channel, you can be dumb and you can be a criminal, but you can't be a dumb criminal. And typically the criminals that we learn about are the dumb criminals that actually get caught because they're doing stupid things like testing their precursors out in the open of the desert. How they even knew to surveil this group in the first place, let's get into it. Washington Attorney General Pam Bondi said Monday that federal authorities had foiled a plan by members of a, quote, far-left group to conduct a series of attacks on New Year's Eve across Southern California. The way you read this is read it as though you were or are a far-lefty who's trying to impugn the intentions of the Trump DOJ. What would you say? If Joe Biden's FBI, and I'm not saying I say this because I believe it, but this is just what you have to do by way of an exercise to scrutinize the story. Joe Biden's FBI comes out and says some far-right group called the Militia for the Defense of America, MIDA, Militia for the Defense of America, MDA. It's got a catchy name to it. They discovered a far-right plot to blow things up on New Year's Eve. You're damn right the right would be skeptical of this. But Evidence is evidence, and you can't contradict, or you can contradict the evidence, but you got to factor it into play. Bondi wrote on X that the Justice Department and FBI prevented what would have been a massive and horrific terror plot in the Central District of California, which encompasses Los Angeles and Orange County. The Attorney General said the group, called the Turtle Island Liberation Front, and apparently, I think it's in this article, but they say Turtle Island is what people who want to sort of deny that Europeans have the right to live in Aboriginal unceded land, so that's what they call the original land that the natives owned. The Turtle Island Liberation Front was behind the plot, preparing to conduct a series of bombings against multiple targets in California, starting on New Year's Eve. Far left bombing California. Bondi described the Turtle Island group as a far left, pro-Palestine, anti-government, and anti-capitalist group. Bondi said the group was also planning to target immigration and ICE agents' vehicles. Well, now I'm inclined to believe it. This was an incredible effort by our U.S. attorney's offices, yada, yada, yada. Bondi wrote, Attorney General, yeah, it's on the end of this article, did not provide further details. Turtle Island Liberation Front describes itself as on Facebook as a political organization that seeks, quote, liberation of occupied Turtle Island and liberation of all colonized people across the world. It sounds like a joke already, but the group has posted pro-Palestinian messages and has said it is fighting against, quote, fascist colonizers. It has urged followers to bring Palestinian flags to protests. An Instagram account of the group's Los Angeles chapter says it advocates for the liberation through decolonization and tribal sovereignty. The group does not appear to be particularly well known. Instagram has fewer than 900 followers, and its Facebook page has 32 followers. Turtle Island is the name used by some indigenous peoples for North America. 32 followers? I swear, I think my dog's Facebook account has more followers than that. Diagolon 2.0, for those of us who don't get that reference, Diagolon is that, meme group up in Canada founded by Jeremy McKenzie, which was never supposed to be anything meaningful of it was not a far-right extremist militia, whatever. It was a meme that the government bought into the meme and invoked it when justifying the Emergency Measures Act being invoked. It was a joke that the government thought was a real militia. This, we'll see. It's interesting. We live now in a post-truth era to some extent. We live in a world where nobody has any faith in the pillars of government, in the pillars of society, to the point where no one believes anything anymore. It's not even that you don't know what to believe. Nobody believes anything. I'm thoroughly convinced that the flat earth movement is the consequence of people getting so consistently lied to that they believe they need to or had to have been lied to about everything, even the things as basic as the earth is round or, relatively round. I was on with the Real America's Voice, the Charlie Kirk show earlier today with Andrew Covey and, forgive me for getting the name of the other guy hosting, and we were talking about, the Charlie Kirk assassination, and they're asking me, like, Viva, tell us what you believe and what you don't believe about the official narrative. And I'm like, I don't believe anything at all that I'm told. You have to verify, and you come to the best conclusions you can come to based on the evidence as you currently understand it to be. We live in a world where it's been reduced to these false dichotomies, where if you believe any of the facts that are promoted by the official narrative, then you promote the official narrative. Oh, you believe the FBI now all of a sudden, Viva? I thought you said they were corrupt to the core, and now you believe them. Well, first of all, I believe the institution of the FBI is inherently corrupt and needs to be dismantled. I had much more faith in it after Cash and Dan were appointed. I still have more faith in it now than I did before, but it's the institution itself that is the corrupt beast. It's like you have a car that has a shot engine, or that, periodically stalls out or, catches fire. It doesn't matter who's driving that car. The car itself needs to be overhauled. You can have the best race car driver in the world driving that car. It's still going to break down on the highway because you don't know what the hell's going on with that engine. So I have zero faith in just believing what I'm told, because I saw this here. I have zero faith, says Humperdew. You don't trust the institutions. You just come to the best conclusions that you can come to based on the evidence. And they're alleging that they got this group at a very convenient, opportune time in the wake of the terrorist attack in Australia, on the heels of what many people believe to be a falling apart narrative of Brian Cole Jr. being the January 6th pipe bomber, and they need another W to celebrate their abilities as a crime busting institution. And the biggest problem in it is that for anybody who says, look, the engine of this car is shot, I know that this engine is seized. I don't care who's driving the car. When you know what the FBI has done by way of entrapment, and I'm not just going back to the FBI Gretchen Whitmer, nabbing alleged Islamic terrorists and entrapping them. When you realize that, that line from House of Cards, we don't, what is it? What was it? It was, we are the terror. The government makes the terror so that it has something to foil. When you appreciate the degree to which the Muhammad drawing cartoon in Texas, Garland, Texas, that the FBI has been involved with or has known about or arguably entrapped or set up multiple plots in the past, on the one hand, so that they occur, so that the need for the FBI exists, and B, so that they can foil them, so the successes of the FBI can be celebrated to justify their existence. Very convenient, a far left pro-Palestinian group out there testing their explosives, and people are going to say, all right, where'd they get their components from? Who taught them how to make these bombs? Who had potentially infiltrated this group? How many of those 4 people had handlers like the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping peeps? So all that to say, if this is bona fide, legit, foiled terror plot, Godspeed, God bless to the FBI, and thank them for doing, the work that I guess they're supposed to do. But people are living in a post-truth world where they know what the machine has been doing for the last 10, 20, 50, 100 years. And they're starting to some extent, if they haven't lost faith, lost some confidence, and are questioning whether or not the new boss is sort of the same as the old boss. But that is what's going on. To the extent that it's a legit W, congratulations, FBI. You will forgive the general population for being skeptical, for saying, is this more of the old? But for the time being, Turtle Island Liberation Front, they have been busted, and there will be no celebration. What were they even doing with where did they get their precursors? How did they know they were meeting out in the desert? And how did they have a surveillance plane getting some damn good, damn clear surveillance? We'll soon find out when more details emerge. Good afternoon, people. How goes the battle? Viva Frei, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler. I smashed my toe on a chair as I was trying to get my dog Pudgy to the front door without her peeing. But lo and behold, I didn't make it to the front door in time. I smashed my toe, and the dog peed all over my hands and feet. But that is the price that we have to pay.